Ooh, this cursed stream is live! It is most certainly the trickiest of treats here on this Halloween as we are going straight into it, Cerny. Welcome to the channel, welcome Samus as well on production, and welcome you all into this quick game of MANDEM vs Garda. And I know you're thinking, my god, it looks like the game's already live. It is, Cerny.
Yeah, it's been 6 minutes already. We've had some minor production issues today getting started, so unfortunately the game started a bit of ahead in time. Unfortunately for the players, unfortunately for us, nothing much happened. There's not been really any points scored. There's been a couple last pushes, as you can see right now. Garda desperately trying to hold their last. MANDEM have been trying for a few minutes now to get in there, as you can see by the round timer. They've been trying for about 4 minutes and they have not been successful so far. So, yeah.
Yeah, internet service providers and last points seem to be the most haunting thing tonight. But, you know, maybe both team will also figure it out as quickly as we can figure things out here on TFTV too.
It's potentially possible. That being said, it's gonna be do or die time for MANDEM soon if they actually want to attempt another push here. They've been trying for so long, they've just not been finding the openings they've been looking for at all. Trading out Lardox again for a soldier probably not going to be anything they want to look for. And with 40 seconds left, they just got to pop. Yeah, that's what they're doing right there. Manix on the Pyros, obviously shutting that down immediately. Matter of fact, he might get Balder caught in as well. There you go. That's taken care of. Grix dies on the other side, but does it really matter? No, because at this point, Garda bought themselves another mid-fight. There's no way MANDEM can take the loss at this point.
Yeah, it seems MANDEM are really obsessed with the idea of just kind of overwhelming whoever's in water and just throwing a scout and a soldier in cut for a bum rush play. They've done it a few times now in a row, and Grix's credit, he's been kind of punching on top with it.
Yeah, still, again, try sending Hans under, but just straight out for him. Nikki now maybe gonna try to just suicide for the point somehow, but this sticks on the point. He can't really get there in time. Maybe just get a bit of cap time. It's the pup push, if anything, but nah, that's not happening. Biggles and Fancy both caught out in water, and there's the stalemate. There's the round reset. The first 9 minutes of this match, and basically nothing happened. So, hey, it's actually good that we went live late. Nothing was really missed in the end of the day.
Yeah, just 9 minutes missing from the clock. If you're kind of wondering, like, what the state of these two teams in the ETF2L so far, they've basically come out of the gates a little bit stumbling from both teams. So hopefully in this week 2 game, they should be a bit more steady and rock solid.
It has been a close season so far. Maybe this will be another close matchup. It has been so far, evidently. Neither team managed to convert around so far. Lardox being the first to down this mid-fight. Piggle's also very, very low, not being able to heal up his team at all, having to back out so far. That's just MANDEM losing the mid off the back of that, at least for now, position-wise. And yeah, Hans gets caught, Nikki caught as well. They cannot escape. They cannot do anything. That's another one mid for Garda.
I need somebody to believe in me, like Haunts believes in Nikki there, because Nikki was obviously caught into mid, and he was probably calling his team to come back in. He's like, don't worry, boys, I can walk through a choke. No, you cannot, Haunts.
That's not happening. Garda, again, they did this last round as well, the round that you did miss. They had an early showing in the round, won the mid, went to last immediately. However, this time around, Pickles does have an Uber to respond with as well, and naturally, they actually have to try and do the same thing that they were preventing the other team from doing earlier.
Scout is in water, though. And he doesn't want to go for the point. He actually goes for just the run W into a soldier and a demo man. So with a demo man down, this is a likely time for them to push.
Yeah, they actually just Uber in very aggressively. Obviously, a way better Uber for Pickles here, but he has few targets to use it on. An Engineer and a Pyro. Hans trying to catch these people escaping, and there you go with the flank from the Pyros. Well, Theos and Manix both will get taken care of eventually. An ambitious play, to be sure, and one that most desperately did not work out here. But we do have Bud and Killsys still maybe trying to catch somebody. Bud probably gonna find himself caught very soon if he doesn't escape. Oh my god, what a rocket by Lardox!
Oh, Jesus!
Set yourself down, kiddo. You're not going anywhere.
I mean, that's like the gravity gun in a way, because he made him plummet into the air with extra strong gravity.
Unbelievable. Beautifully done. That's going to be MANDEM regaining some ground, regaining some of their sea legs, finally retaking a second, and actually going to be having a pretty good chance of getting into mid here as well. Big Uber ad for Pickles, and as long as they play this right, which they totally do, Garda are not very keen on protecting this very aggressively. Bud even goes down, trying to be a bit too extended, and they're just going to keep rolling this forward, MANDEM. I mean, surely sooner rather than later Theos is going to get his own Uber, but will it be in time to protect second? Most definitely not.
And they're rolling it still into this last. I think they will obviously, yeah, they have the Uber now for this last fight. I think they should respect it over on Mandem. I think they should be aware. I think they're just kind of fishing. Oh, actually, Lardok's getting the jump onto Shappy, who was staring at a trap in River. So that's a massive pick, and they have to push off this.
Yeah, that alone is already a huge one. The Sentry's not even level 2 yet. They have a pyro protecting it, but even then, you've got so much ground already.
No.
They do lose Boulder, though. A little bit too keen on that scout. And a bit of cap time out of Nikki, though. This is what he loves doing. He is on the flank immediately. So much cap time on that point. Now Mandem have another ace in the pocket. They just got to wait for their scouts here. That cap time is not going to fade by the time they respawn. So that's another thing they can play around now, if they so desire. And there's no shot Garda will try to push out. They certainly haven't set the precedent so far that they would, just off a couple scout picks.
This just goes to show how rare it is to get a demo man pick like that, because once they had it over on Mandem, I don't think they were entirely sure what to do with it. They just started throwing in scouts into a sentry gun and just all these other aspects that really a lack of demo man doesn't really change things.
Yeah, they tried to make something happen. Obviously, it didn't quite work. That being said, they still have a bit of cap time. Nikki doesn't get to do it again. Shappy that time was watching the sticky trap once more, manages to pick him off. So that's another failed opportunity for them. And now Mandem seem to be way back into their trench again here. They're trying the same thing to try and somehow bust this Gullywash last, and it's still not working.
We've been seeing Garda using a lot more of the pyro kind of aggressively, as in like closer to the door. And I was kind of scratching my head a little while ago. I was like, whatever happened to the pyros just kind of sat on door during all these sort of Uber pushes and all that? I mean, you can completely deny an Uber push from this position at times, and a lot of teams have just fallen back to like just playing off the respawn more, but I like that Garda bringing it back.
They do also have that such an aggressive position. It's a bit tough to spam without a lot of coordination, which finally Mandem manages to do. They did find an early Grix pick as well, but that's not enough if they lose their own Nikki. And they do get the force out of Theos, though, which is a huge thing to accomplish here if you're trying to push last. That's well worth the cost of admission, being 2 players to accomplish that. Now you just got to keep your own med safe, keep your own doors on lockdown a little bit. Grix already trying to be a bit aggressive here, seeing if you can maybe have something happen, but as more time fades, less and less opportunity is going to be available to him, and yeah, he's just going to go back to last. So now Garda have to have an insane last hold against this Uber, which is very much possible with that Pyro still in play.
Yeah, this is just coming down to the sentry position of Yarlin. He had it kind of on the lip of that last point rather than in the position it was in now. It just kind of makes it so there's more opportunities or like sight lines that they can span that sentry gun at the same time. But they're just going to take it out with an Uber charge, but that's the job of the sentry gun in a way, to kind of absorb that attention of the Uber. As, it doesn't absorb enough attention, however. They've done a bit of a delta split to kind of draw their attention, and Theos will get the Uber charge, but a lot of players down for Mandem.
Theos actually got a salt for that one, so that's how he saved it ever so slightly. Unfortunately, there's just not enough Garda players for him to Uber and try to protect this point. Shappy just didn't have enough ammo loaded to take down all of these Mandem players on the point, and there you go. Finally, after half the map time, the first round is going to go the way of Mandem. Certainly not as quick as they would like, probably.
All this off the back of a tiny sentry gun being placed in the wrong spot. It's going to hurt the soul a little bit if you're on the side of Garda, but they can bounce back. This has got 15 minutes. It's a long time in FPS land.
Yeah, they've been dominant on these mids so far, so if they're going to continue to have a strong performance here, fancy getting a lot of aggro immediately. Grix just so deep, but no follow-up on that. They actually just find Lardox and lose everybody else on their side. It's only Bud left alive, and, well, he's getting shot out of the sky immediately. Almost got Piggles, mind you, but still shot down by the scouts, irregardless of that, and that is a 1 mid for Mandem as they keep rolling it forward. They seem to be in the swing of things now.
The disadvantages of going and jumping first if you're on the side of Grix is if it doesn't quite work out, you're kind of putting your team into a 5v6 situation, and that's what it kind of boiled down to. Even though Grix, it looked like on my screen, had a very key opportunity on top of Fancy, and they weren't really aware of his position, but he just kind of like missed staying on the top area, he just kind of fell down and couldn't really recover from there.
Yeah, and you lose your ground, you miss a couple of rockets, and that's all she wrote. You have one opportunity, one shot, and you didn't seize it. Now there's the Uber coming out of the side of MANDEM, and he got a sentry. That's about it. Now they got to spam down this heavy on the other side. The Pyro is still in play as well. Kills finally gets taken down, but they did find Hans. They find Balder as well, and with Fancy still stuck in the spawn trying to escape the best he can. What a jump! This man's been practicing his jump maps. Unbelievable. What an escape. That was actually quite dicey.
Man, how difficult was it to not use the word fancy during all of that?
It would have been too cheesy. I couldn't possibly. Nikki almost managing to get Theos there is quite scary as well, but he doesn't, and Theos hangs onto his Uber. They find Kills with Hans being very far forward in Big Door, but he's also going to be shut off potentially. And ideally, Garda want to take this as far as they can without having to use, so they're going to be pressuring themselves in here slowly but surely. Meanwhile, Fancy's just shutting down these soldiers trying to bomb choke. And he's doing an okay job at it.
Yeah, they're going to rotate round to Big Door now because Haunts didn't do a good job of shutting down a sort of lower area. And they come back into the fight now. Theos, kind of caught with their pants down, will end up forcing their Uber exchange coming out. But there's plenty of targets for Boulder to lay into with this remnants of the Uber. And now it's just kind of a focus fire fight.
Yeah, it's an absolute disaster from Menix and Theos here as well. They're caught out, surrounded by 4 people. It's only Shappy as the sole demo man left, trying to somehow hold his ground as best he can, but it's not going to be all that easy. Just a couple of players spawning now, trying to maybe help him protect this last point. They still don't have any heals whatsoever either, and MANDEM are already very far aggressive on this last point. Fancy just now going down, survived for so long as well, but still, somehow, someway, MANDEM not aggressive enough to actually commit to that last push. Maybe respecting the Garda spawns a bit too much. Still, they're going to be in a great position to repush this regardless, and they're not even going to wait for the Uber either. They're just going to put so much pressure on the point, slowly but surely whittling away these Garda players. Theos goes so low, not being able to heal anybody for a while now. Boulder is still in on last somehow. Finally he gets taken down after causing so much of a distraction.
The longer I see this Pyro at last and these sort of last-ditch fight efforts, the more it's growing on me. Because in these sort of like spammy little fights, he just, at the very minimum, buys time. With all this air blasting, all this annoying sort of concentrated fire from MANDEM just being completely absorbed. They will Uber in now, though.
Yeah, they will have that Uber. Theo's still far off his own. Shappy goes down immediately as well. No demo, and that's good enough for Nikki to just walk on the point with no stickies to worry about. That's it. That's Nikki in his element. He just backcaps that immediately while everybody on Garda is trying to kite that Uber. And there you go. They make it 2-0.
Yeah, just too much chaos. Nobody really sort of given the block point job during all of that, so it was just kind of an easy sort of cap under their noses.
And it worked just like that. Let's see if Garda can find their way back into this matchup. They still got 11 minutes. It's certainly possible to get 2, if not 3 rounds in that time, if they so desire. Good start to the mid with both Hans and Balder getting taken down. There goes Laudox as well. They find Menix on the other side, but it's already looking much better in terms of players. Actually, Fancy gets a nice kill onto Bud there, lives as well. Nikki gets taken care of. The mid is still 1 for Garda, but crucially, Piggles did stay alive. And is going to be having an Uber to hold with here. And MANDEM have been a bit more decisive with those last holds and actually pushing out off of them as well. So we'll have to see how Garda can try to go here. Matter of fact, MANDEM might even try to protect second.
Yeah, some very good damage being put out by the Garda soldiers, and it's actually being followed up as well by the scouts of Garda.
Doesn't matter, because Shappy just has some nicely placed stickies and makes Piggles drop. So it's all over. Just like that. If there was ever any sort of chance for MANDEM to do anything like pushing out or being aggressive on second here, it's immediately crumpled away with that drop, and now they have to try and hold last against an Uber.
Now, are they tempted to go early now, or do they wait for everybody to go up, make this completely picturesque of an Uber?
Yeah, well, the longer they take, the longer they give MANDEM to set up their last ult here as well. They got the Pyro already, got the Sentry in level 2. It's probably going to be level 3 by the time Garda finally makes up their minds and actually starts moving. There's the Uber. They're going to send a couple players through water, the rest through a river, going as deep as they can, as fast as they can, try to just snuff out these players under the point, but they're taking so long, they're not finding the frags. Finally, Hans and Fancy get taken down. No demo could make this a bit easier, but Boulder is a heavy on 400 HP, healed up, tanked out on that high ground. It's going to be very hard to get anywhere near the point with Nikki air blasting people off as well. And Bud just goes for a Hail Mary bomb as Menix rushes in and gets shut down by Lardox as well. Matter of fact, Theos is almost dead. Shappy is not too healthy. They got to get the hell out of there.
The idea behind Ubering people through water is that you can kind of bum rush the defender in that water area and get the pick quickly and then get on the point quickly, and that pressure should kind of help your fighters on top during that post-Uber fight. But that never really came. That was just a little bit late during that, and it kind of sped the downfall for Garda at that point.
Fortunately for them, they do have built that Uber quite quickly. Pickles has, but Theos is close, so they should be able to hold mid here. Maybe. I mean, it's certainly looking like they're gonna try. They are taking a lot of damage for it, and they have now gotten their Uber. Theos is very keen on trying to walk forward as well. Takes Menix in for the exchange potentially, but Menix isn't hitting any shots on Pickles. Finally, the force comes out. More of a pity, really.
This is alright, actually.
Yeah, they managed to escape with most of their players, actually. Yeah, they've traded out Nikki as well, so for the most part, that actually went decently well. Now they've got an ad. Kind of, a small one. Theos didn't heal for a while, I suppose. Still, it's a chaotic fight on his midpoint for now. Both teams still trying their absolute damage to gain grounds here, but in terms of positions, it's much better for MANDEM. They shut down Bud, trying to bomb into 4 players. Kills also gets taken care of, and just like that, they're gonna have to give up more ground and go back to their own second on the side of Garda. Matter of fact, they might have to keep backpedaling. There's a lot of pressure out of MANDEM.
Garda make these decisions where I agree in the spirit of the decisions, but then the execution just falls just a little bit out of say. Oh, nice little reflect coming out from Menix there.
Managing to shut down Hans, which could have been dangerous for Garda if he had actually been given free reins. And Theos having that bit of an ad here actually could be enough if they really wanted to be keen and push out on. If they're gonna be careful about not letting anybody slip behind, which is easy considering you got 2 players dead on the side of MANDEM as well. Pico's very aggressive with it as well, though, knowing that he's gonna have Uber soon. Obviously, not gonna give this up for free. Bud gets taken down once more. Traded out for Nikki, though, as Grix tries to bump forward. Does a lot of damage to Pickles, actually, before being taken care of. But there go Lardox and Hans once more. And the rest of MANDEM kind of just have to give up their ground on second now. They're trying to be cheeky and lower shutter here, but surely that's not gonna happen. Yeah, no, they're out.
Demoman, a good class, kind of flexing the power for both teams there, and wow, this is a brave sort of just walk in and make people multi, I suppose, from both Pickles and Boulder. And this has happened twice now. Boulder always has an option of a kill because he knows he can just find this Demoman in this shutter area on his own.
It's also maybe a bit of a scout or skill difference in that regard, because Manix has been trying to do the same thing whenever they do the solo Ubers in on Theos, right? But he's just not hitting the shots as much, or picking the targets as well as Balder is. Balder's been carrying those solo chariot Ubers so much better, and there you go, off the back of that alone, they get another round, just that quickly. It's been working very well for Balder so far. It has not been working as well for Manix. Both trying the same thing.
I think Bud is just kind of getting picked off a little bit, just ever so slightly, like in these sort of fights. I'm not saying like he's the most important domino in this whole crashing sort of state, but he certainly is usually the first domino to fall.
Yeah, he's usually the first to go. That's a good observation. There you go. Matter of fact, he dies to a saw from Piggles on this mid-fight as the first casualty. Grix taken care of as well. They find Hans on the other side as well as Lardox. No soldier for either team, but way better positions for MANDEM as they just clean up these remaining Garda players. Theo's left alone, trying to meet up with his scout friend, managing to just narrowly escape into lobby and be chased back to last. So that medic is gonna live, and he's probably gonna get an Uber before MANDEM can even cap second. But they are so aggressive already. They just now left a scout to even cap mid. So they are very keen to convert this round once more as quickly as they can.
Yeah, MANDEM honestly making solid decisions, and like you said, just solid sort of output and kind of gameplay difference in a way. You know, that skill, that individual skill kind of showing and flexing in this game.
As much as it's not necessarily comparison, you always want to draw between the players, because at the end of the day, these are all good players. But unfortunately, just the solo chariot Ubers have been working so much better for MANDEM than they have been for Garda. And, well, it's not really going to matter on this last all that much, but MANDEM, again, has been better on these equal Uber last pushes as well. They've taken care of the stickies, they found them, so now if they want to send Nikki lower, they very much can. They love doing that, so it's certainly a possibility. There you go, he's going to get his full buff and just chill under there in the water. Maybe even not. Maybe just realizing that there's a lot of pressure on the flank, actually. Maybe they should back off a little bit and help out their players that are being pressured in lobby. Good, you know, good aggression there by Garda to drive those players back.
Yeah, but you need to get greedier. I think if we want to get to this section of the game. You're 3 points down, 4 minutes left. It is possible, but you just have to kind of get aggressive, and that's what they're doing now. So credit to them. They are coming out with a lot of kills, and again, every time I'm seeing this sort of modern pyro, I'm kind of getting a bit more attuned to it, a bit happier to see it.
Yeah, it's been working okay for them so far. They are gonna get the second cap potentially, but there is still an Uber in
No
play for
blocking point
MANDEM.
though.
They're not actually blocking at all. Yeah, they're just Ubering, trying to kill some players here. They find a Soul Bud, who's basically just a flashbang at this point. They finally clean up kills as well, but they've already lost 3 players on the side of MANDEM. Left Theos with a sizable Uber advantage as well, and given them the point on the side of Garda. Garda is still very much in this. They can, if they so desire, convert another 3 rounds here if they move at an absolutely incredible pace. Shappy getting taken down in choke is going to throw a bit of a wrench in those plans and probably seal the deal on it, actually. But hey, anything's possible, right?
I think this is where we put a big asterisk. And oh my god!
Jesus Christ!
Just destroyed Chris. Very, very nice. But yeah, that whole asterisk at this gameplay is just that God are desperate. They want to just kind of start putting rounds onto the board, so they have to just make wrong decisions, but at least they're decisions to be made. And I mean, when the dust settles, they have got a min out of it, but I think that's just because they overextended once, but then MANDEM overextend themselves and gives them a bit of rope to choke themselves with, and now they're back in the game, baby.
They are, but can they convert 3 rounds in less than 3 minutes? It's
No.
certainly a very tall order.
No, they won't.
You might have to like break the space-time continuum to pull that one off. It's certainly not been done before, but I suppose we could see the Balkan squad mainly try to pull that one off this time around. If they can get at least a pity round, a consolation prize on the board, that would be something to take them into the next map at the very, very least, right? To keep morale high and all that sort of stuff. They have a nice opportunity to do it here. Uber into last once more through River. Similar story. They do have a couple stickies on point to deal with. Matter of fact, they have a demo to deal with, and he's holding his ground quite well. But Theos, let's get a saw on him, and they do get a couple more frags as well. Matter of fact, it's only the heavy left, and if Shappy can somehow DPS on his heavy, nah, it's not happening. Pickles is just tanking him down so much, it's not gonna happen. Unless we manage to somehow get the kill to Pickles. Okay, all right, nice drop, nice drop. Fair enough. He gets away with it. And he lives too. That's incredible. Actually, Panty's on the chase. Yeah, okay.
Oh.
he gets rid of that problem, but man.
Man, this is some YouTube content being pumped out in the final minutes of the game.
Going for the frag clips. That's all that matters.
I'm liking the last defenses very much from MANDEM. I feel like Boulder comes out on heavy at like perfect timing, as opposed to Garda's, where the heavy seems to be at the forefront of the defense and is the first one being shot. Boulder is always like the last one to be shown, and that's when the heavy, hurts the most. When everybody's reloading and everyone's just kind of like run out of steam, they haven't got any sort of overheal or anything like that. No coordination left in them because everyone's in a random spot on the map. The heavy thrives on those sort of situations, and Boulder's picking his timing perfectly, and his team supporting that timing as well.
That being said, they did just get backcapped. Menix managed to actually pull off a backcap to give Garda that one crucial round that they need on the board here, if they want to do it for personal morale and good feelings and all that stuff. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. At the end of the day, it is now garbage time. But now that you mentioned the heavy, it is a stark contrast to the Garda defenses, because obviously you always have a heavy coming out there as well. Either Killsis or Menix both have tried it, and both times they get nuked down so much more quickly. They are much sooner on that heavy, as you mentioned, like not as well timed as Boulders are. So much sooner on the heavy, they immediately get spammed down, and they don't get to do much at all in terms of the picking off weak players or anything like that, because everybody's just bunched up, focusing them down. That's kind of how you deal with the heavy. If everybody's shooting the fat guy, you kind of can't do much. Hasn't worked for them.
Yeah, only 3 seconds left. This game's over. So, I mean, there are glimmers of hope and very good things to celebrate for Garda, and of course, MANDEM is MANDEM. MANDEM is doing perfectly fine. Maybe a couple of slips and bumps, but overall the gameplay is still pristine. I think from MANDEM.
Yeah, they've been playing much better than they did last match. That's for sure. Again, they were struggling a lot more against the Frenchies.
I feel like Garda kind of give it up a little bit on the silver platter at times though, to MANDEM, especially like moments where they Ubered straight in onto mid, and they just kind of thought like, all right, Pickles, how much are you going to milk this Uber? And he's like, I'm going to milk it a lot, my man. I am not a new medic on the block. I have some sort of belief that I can hold on to this, and held he did.
Yeah, he's quite a survivalist, as he's known for. He can be very slippery at times, and he showed it plenty of times on Gully there as well. I suppose, while we wait for the second map, we can always look at some logs.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at
Numbers
some logs.
numbers are always interesting. Let's see.
Fancy was having a good show. I agree with these damage logs. He had some very good opportunities where he could just put in a lot of damage into the Garda team, because they were kind of played a lot of meat grinder gameplay where they want to go through the choke point and just kind of finesse around it. And Fancy was just very reliably like keeping these sort of chokes on lockdown. But anyway, these logs aren't too interesting. You don't want to see these, chat. Then there's nothing too strange I'm looking at here in the grand scheme of things.
I'm glad you were taking that, because they weren't loading for me either.
Yeah,
they were not loading.
It's a buggy site. Let me tell you, it's a buggy site. But I mean, nothing really standing out. The medics are kind of ranging at the same sort of depth. Obviously, the fights were ranging a bit more, or the mid fights were going a bit more to Garda's side. And I think that's the biggest takeaway they can take from this, is that their mids were pretty good, pretty coordinated, following up on the damage made out by the soldiers. But I mean, credit to MANDEM to actually convert these sort of last defenses into sort of heartbreaking rounds. That's not an easy thing to do, and kind of almost like playing TF2 on hard mode for them when they lose the mids.
Yeah, leapfrogging like that is not an easy task, not a high task, especially because Gullywash is also such a hard last to push out of. Like you need quite a lot to get out of a goalie last compared to some other maps. Just a couple of picks from the pushing team is not gonna be enough. So the fact that they managed to pull that off repeatedly is quite the telling sign. And considering we're going into a map where it's even more notoriously difficult to get out of last, or into last for that matter, Snakewater, maybe that's gonna be a trend we might see. Who knows? It's certainly possible. It's a possibility.
I think the soldiers will have a much harder time of causing chaos on this map as opposed to Gullywash. It seems like Grix and Bud did a good job of just kind of laying foundational damage for the scouts to play off, because now they're a bit more compartmentalized in these sort of mids. So say if a soldier does commit in like they were committing into Gullywash, those scouts aren't going to have quite an easier time to like back up that damage in certain places. It's very dedicated where your scouts have to kind of cross over like that, or there's just flat out areas they can't reach unless they've like really prepared for it, like the roof.
Yeah, you need to do a lot of parkour to get there. It's much easier for soldiers. So we'll see how that shakes out. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily going to be the soldier duo for Garda that has to do the carrying, because on the other side, you do have Haunts and Lardox. At least the former has already got quite a few Prem seasons under his belt now. Lardox coming back to the team after a bit of an absence, playing in lower divs for a while and stuff like that. But still, by far no slouch to the soldier class, but especially Haunts, if he gets the space he wants, and if he gets given just an inch of freedom, so I basically, if medics and killsys are not on top of him, he could do a lot of work. He could do a lot of work for MANDEM here on these, especially these mid fights as well. So I have to keep an eye on that. Guy loves going around. What I've noticed a lot out of MANDEM, especially when I watched him play last week as well, they love their aggressive flank. Both Haunts and Nikki love just walking way far behind. They go on odysseys together. They go on journeys, trying to just slowly pick apart the pincer maneuver and all that onto the enemy team. And again, if Garda gives them the space to do that, that could spell doom for them. It's much easier to do on Snake than it is on Goalie. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
Plus, I feel like they have a lot of belief in their sort of DM prowess. They will take these sort of like aggressive fights, these 1v1, these scout Ubers, solos in to just exchange, and then maybe we'll find some people outside of the Uber to like pick off during all that. Whilst I can see other teams rightfully so, just kind of playing it safe, playing it cooler, not having to be risky as these players made out by Mandem. But this is good. This is making these sorts of plays in the early weeks of ETF2L can show and yield a lot of growth. If you are basically, if you're more willing to try things and do these things and all that, you're more likely to obviously practice them and succeed later on in these later weeks and the playoff.
Yeah, you can workshop that for a little bit more and figure out just exactly how you make the flow work, because even if it can be very powerful with those aggressive flanks, end of the day, it's a high risk as well, because if you get shut down on that flank, if you get taken care of, that's 2 players out of the fight immediately, right? You are having a tough time. So they got to find that nice balance between just how risky do they want to go with that, how well can they make it work, and well, they've been making it work pretty well against Garda. They were trying it last week against the Frenchies. They weren't doing as well then. So they got to find the balance. They got to see as well how the other team responds to it, right? If they're getting shut down too much, maybe they need to adjust strategy, and that's what they were struggling with against the Frenchies. Mandem are kind of hard set on their strategy sometimes, so that could bite them if there's a response out of Garda here that shuts them down a bit. That being said, we'll have to see as the match has now started. They are going to be looking at a Snakewater and seeing if maybe, just maybe, Garda can bring back some points for themselves on this little match today, or if they're going to remain pointless in the season for now without anything to write home about. As Lardox goes for a very high bomb with Hans as well immediately onto Shappy, onto the combo. They find both the medic and the demo. Matter of fact, the entire team gets nuked down. The precision, surgical, out of Mandem. Not even Bud can salvage anything here with his patented bombs. What a mid-fight.
Yeah, everybody was buffing up over on Garda onto the battlements area, just kind of hoping that they could absorb a soldier straight away, gobble him up with all their buff players. But all that grouping makes it a mighty tasty find for these soldiers, especially if 2 of them come blazing around the corner.
Yeah, and then just some follow-up by the demo as well as the scouts, and you've got a dead team on your hands with a full Uber ad as well for the attackers on Mandem here. They're keen to take this through Shutter immediately. Sentry's only level 2. Matter of fact, it was upgrading as they bombed in. That's an unfortunate timing as the heavy comes out of Menix, but he's already spammed down so much even in spawn. He's barely left the door, and he's almost dead. They're not finding any frags on these attackers, barely managing to cling onto this point for now. Finally, some cap time being put down, and there's nobody that can get close. The heavy and medic left in the spawn trying to salvage something, while the rest of the team is just left for dead outside. And there you go, a quick first round out of Mandem.
A lot of haste coming out from Fancy to actually switch sides then. When he took out the sentry gun, already kind of have the door on the left-hand side locked down. A rare sight to be seen. Usually there's just something on the plate for this demo man to kind of be distracted or deal with, but not Fancy during that last push.
It was clean on that, and we're back into the next mid-fight in under 2 minutes. Let's see if this time around Garda, yeah, they're going to be a bit more aggressive. They are ready for this one as the soldiers go high again from Mandem, land on the medic, and clean him up once more. It took a little bit longer, and on the other side, they did find Pagels, Lardox, Hans as well cleaned up. There you go. It's only Boulder and Fancy left against Menix, so still a 1 mid-fight, just barely, though, for Mandem this time. Garda have found their way into this a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks like the double soldier commit coming out for Mandem, and just hoping that the scouts are very responsive to pushing over and being brave during that. It could have been a very different story though if Fancy didn't 1v1 a soldier on his own with just his pipes. So I mean, credit to him, he committed to help in Boulder at that last moment and did contribute to being the last one standing there.
It did work out for Mandem as they moved their way forward. Lardox in with a deep bomb, trying to see if he can just buy some time. Does not land on anything, but also manages to live as Hans bombs in, picks up Shappy instead, which is a crucial pick to get when you're trying to push against a defending team. Now Grix maybe trying to see if he can just clean up some kills here, or anybody can clean up anything, but now they have to settle for trading out Hans for Shappy, and well, there's a crits coming out of Pickles, actually. It's on the demo. He flashes it onto Boulder instead because he's hitting a little bit more than Fancy is right now, and that's a couple of kills down the drain for them. There goes Bud as well. So that crits worked out just wonderfully, but crucially, Theo still has his Uber.
Yeah, crits actually rarely working out for any team, but Mandem pull it off. They've already pressuring the point now. They do pop off the Uber over on Garda to block said point, kind of forcing their hand, and they get out quite swiftly as well. But credit to Boulder, because Scout crits usually don't work out too much. When you see a crits come out, everybody dogpiles on them so quickly. But the fast reactions, the fast scatter shots, was enough to actually make that crits work.
Yeah, really well timed on the flash as well. Like, Fancy was getting pressured too much, couldn't really sneak in any stickies or anything like that, so Piggles immediately deciding Boulder's in such a good position, able to clean up a bunch of kills with those crit scatters, and it worked out wonderfully. Now, they have another crits ready, and there it goes once more. Will the stickies actually find any target at all? Shappy's just getting juggled around by the soldier, and not even dying! Matter of fact, they got the sniper as well, who got just taken care of there, and a stray crit sticky took him out for that matter, as Griggs gets taken down as well, but they traded out Boulder and Lardok, so it's still not in any way a one push here. How did Hans get away with that? I was not expecting him to get away with that anyway. It's still not a one push necessarily for MANDEM, but they are making progress inch by inch. Dios gets juggled into the skybox, has to pop his Uber against nobody basically. Once more, they get that force him, and now they have another big advantage to use his crits once more if they just stall out for long enough and keep these Garda players at bay, which you're doing a phenomenal job at.
Yeah, absolutely everyone is spread thin on Garda at a constant rate. The defense was spread thin. Now the attack coming out from that Uber was spread thin. The only reason that they maybe had a chance to counterattack throughout any of that was they really wanted to force the Uber out of Theos, and when the Uber was forced, they obviously committed in 2 players at a time. And I think, obviously Bill was just a dart and pinky toe across the line and ended up getting picked off there.
Yeah, that actually happened twice there as well. They don't really accomplish... I mean, they get a couple kills with the crits, but they don't accomplish much. Dios stays alive, but he gets forced on last and then can't go anywhere, immediately allowing MANDEM to repush with add once more, and it converted beautifully. Now, let's see if they can do it again, both with the mid-fight and everything. Soldiers go crisscross once more, really high, but it looks like Garda came prepared, at least this time. They have found themselves a little bit of a better defense against it, and matter of fact, they have found Piggles on the other side. They didn't quite win the mid, and Grix is the only one left alive with barely a sliver of HP, but he is still in the backlines, and he is still being a bit of a nuisance. They are aware of him, and they are scared of him as well, because he can very much cause a little bit of havoc here. If he gave it out to Fancy, he could very well kill that guy. Unfortunately, Fancy hits a nice pipe, but it could have happened. Could have very well happened. Anything's possible.
Seems like the best defense for dealing with these soldiers is just to not focus on them, just completely pretend that they're not there, and just focus on all the sort of damage and output and timing you can make on this sort of mid point rush, and then just play the fight from there, and then go grab those soldiers later on.
Yeah, once more, Shappy overextended on second as well, but nearly dying. Manix trying to snipe, gets cleaned up by Nikki as well. Matter of fact, Nikki and Fancy are kind of just walking into last with Lardox in tow as well. They've got a Sentry on the point, which is obviously not going to do anything. Completely caught out. Again, these Garda players spread so thin, just one by one feeding into the enemy team. And yeah, that's another easy round for MANDEM. They are very much on form now.
Yeah, it's looking like quite an outclass of a game, and 3-0 is very demoralizing. It's going to take a lot of sort of brain power and sort of like courage for Garda to shake it off at this point of the game.
Yeah, 3-0 down in less than 10 minutes is devastating to the mental, without a doubt. And if they don't find their way into these mid-fights, I don't see that tide changing anytime soon. Butt goes high, Grix going across as well. For once, the soldiers on MANDEM a bit more conservative on their bombs, and they find Piggles immediately with that, but that's all they find. Theos gets taken care of. Matter of fact, Fancy's just laying down pipes like crazy. Everybody's dead on the side of Garda once more. They only found the medic this time. It's a small consolation, I suppose, but certainly not one that's going to buy them another round anytime soon.
Yeah, Garda putting on their MANDEM impression, really sending everyone across the point there to try and fight. And I think in some of that sort of hellscape, you saw the teammates all trying to rush to the same area, trying to get to that sawmill of blue team. But in the sort of, obviously, the head start rush from the soldiers, they lose a lot of their teammates because they can't rocket jump into the room like they can.
That's a little snipe there from Minix to pick up Nikki. A little bit too keen on the scouting there, buddy. You're gonna get shut down by the sniper, and now, if Menix can actually start hitting some shots, some more crucial shots, then maybe, just maybe, MANDEM have to sweat it a little bit. They've already rotated lower, knowing full well they can't possibly cross into the sniper lines, and Grix dying on lower is probably a problem if you're trying to hold last, as they Uber in, pick up Bud as well as the Sentry Gun immediately. Get a bit of cap time. Not really many stickies on the point to right home, but matter of fact, Shappy's just gonna get juggled and hits a nice little pipe onto Lardox in the air. All right, they're actually kind of holding this. Just somehow, just barely, but not enough players to jump onto the point. And ultimately, Hans and Pickles kind of just cap that one out and make it 4-0.
I mean, it looks like 4-0 on the scoreboard. It's kind of 5-0 in the hearts of these players, it feels like.
Yeah.
Maybe these soldiers throwing their lives away just a little bit willy-nilly, in the fact that, they do have an Uber charge outside of your base. Everybody should be accounted for in these sort of defenses.
Unfortunately, it's not working well for Garda. This is where they turn it around. Surely this is where they find an unbelievable comeback, making it 5-4 instead. As Lardox goes high, Hans obviously goes across as well, but Garda again in position to at least respond to that a little bit better, only losing a couple players so far. Will he be able to actually salvage anything out of this? Well, at the very least, Theos managed to stay alive for the time being, as Hans has found him though, and chased him down. Now Bud does hit the joust. Unfortunately, he's got another soldier to worry about, and yeah, Lardox just follows that one up. Another easily one mid wipe out of MANDEM. They are completely dominating this match at this point.
Yeah, they're having a tough time just dissecting what to do on these mids. You can see the variety being put out by Garda to kind of crack down or figure out what they could do about these mids. And it just seems like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, says MANDEM. They just do the same mids over and over again with slight adjustments, obviously dealing with what Garda can slap out during the mid fight, but they seem to prioritize their targets really well, and obviously the soldiers just look very comfortable on this midpoint.
Yeah, they are given the reins, and once more, there's the MANDEM Uber through lower. The Sentry is taken care of immediately. Now we'll see if MANDEM can actually somehow get on the point and pressure it a little bit. There's so much cap time already. Finally, soldiers come in to try and block it, but there's so much cap time if they even step off for a split second. It's GG's. 5-0 for MANDEM. A much more decisive map 2 than map 1, at least for the first half. Now, first map was significantly closer than Snakewater ended up being, but maybe Garda just kind of ran out of steam. That's what I'm going to assume happened there. They just ran out of fuel.
I think the mids have just been very, very devastating.
Yeah.
Like they obviously, maybe the second one I think was the one where it was the closest, and it just came down to when they did have some foothold, the DM prowess was kind of flexing hard for MANDEM, which hurts the soul a little bit. When you feel like you've got something clicking on a strategic level, just to end up losing from that raw DM prowess anyway, it just seems, how can you win if you can't get past the second layer of MANDEM?
Yeah, it had just like every single one of those rounds was exclusively decided by the mid fight, and logs are on screen, but really, what is there to talk about? It is an absolute domination out of MANDEM. Look at those stats, dude.
I think the last drastically need to be looked at by Garda, because there was just no hold whatsoever.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm going to give a little bit of doubt to Garda on the sort of last couple of rounds, because I think your soul's just not in it. You're kind of just like waiting for the clock to tick down. You just you throw your soldiers in because this is, I guess I'll try and do something Hail Marys and all this, because you feel like those are the only things that will work at this point. And yeah, but the first couple of defenses were just soulless. No sort of coordination, no sort of lockdown or kind of deterrent. They put a sentry gun, but they're going to expect that. That is the most cookie cutter thing ever. I don't see any sort of blocking of points or anything like that.
Yeah, there was like that one last ult where they had the heavy just not even being able to leave spawn, exclusively being healed by the medic, while everybody else slowly but surely, one by one, tries to walk out on the point to just block for a split second before getting annihilated by 3 people spamming them down. And that was pretty much like, at that point I was like, okay, that spells like the principal last hold for Garda, because they were all like that.
These games feel the worst as well, so I will shed a tear for Garda, just because obviously it's like mid-losing simulator. You just turn up, you lose your mid in a devastating fashion, and you lose last, and then you're back straight into the mid. You're already a bit shaky on and worried and a little less confident, and just getting that beat down over and over again. Whilst at least it goes back and forth, between games you have these sort of solid minutes of like cool down, break, maybe even a chance to like communicate with each other and feel like you got a foothold on this game. But when it spirals out of control like this so quickly, you can kind of check out rather quickly too. And I mean, I don't know what to say to Mandem. Mandem, you're playing pretty good, guys. You're
Yeah,
certainly winning. I mean, there's not
yeah,
really much to criticize there.
yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to think of anything, but yeah, it was pretty flawless as TF2 goes.
Yeah, like the first map took a little bit to get warmed up. They took a bit to get into it, but once they did, they were in control. And maybe that first week was just a bit of a toss-up. Maybe
Yeah,
struggling against the Frenchies in the first
I
week.
mean,
Start of the season, is always a bit of a warm-up that matters there, and then maybe they'll just dominate the rest of the season. Who knows?
yeah. It's not, I mean, the only thing you could say is that the mids aren't clean per se, but I think
Hmm.
that's like what's so the beauty of them. They are literally doing the all-in poker play, and they think their pot is just so much bigger than anybody else's, and results.
Yeah. Anyway, we should probably not linger for too much longer because the other match is actually still going on TFTV one. So we should probably just send whatever remains on this channel over there and say bye. That's it. Bye.
Bye bye, guys.